The deal arrived when her phone battery was at 11%. That felt intentional. The message was short, too clean. No emojis, no greeting, no desperate tone pretending this was normal work. One night, one job, cash by morning. She stared at it longer than she meant to. The room around her smelled faintly of instant noodles and stale air. The fan rattled like it had opinions. Her landlord's last message sat unread, but not forgotten. She typed back slowly. "What's the job?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then the reply. "You stay awake." She frowned. That's it. That's the requirement. She laughed once, sharp and quiet. Finally, she muttered, "A job I'm already failing at for free." She typed again. "Where?" An address appeared instantly. No explanation, no map link, just a line of text that looked heavier than it should have. Old side of the city. She checked the amount again. It hadn't changed. It didn't need to. The number was precise in a way that felt personal, like it had been calculated after studying her life. "Why me?" she typed. This time the reply took longer. "You don't ask unnecessary questions when you need money." Her smile faded. She locked the phone, then unlocked it again immediately, like she might miss something if she blinked too long. When? Midnight. She looked at the clock. 11:12 p.m. That's soon. The night doesn't wait. That line bothered her more than the money impressed her. She told herself it was just dark humor. Whoever was on the other end liked sounding dramatic. People with money often did. It made them feel interesting. She stood up, pulled on the least suspicious clothes she owned, and left before her common sense could finish waking up. The cab ride felt longer than it should have. The city thinned out as they drove, streetlights growing farther apart, shadows stretching wider. The driver didn't talk, didn't play music, just drove like he'd made this trip before and didn't want to remember why. When they stopped, she looked up at the house. It wasn't abandoned. That would have been easier. It was clean, maintained, tall, dark in a deliberate way, like all the lights had agreed not to betray it. Curtains sealed every window, except one. A faint glow pulsed on the upper floor, steady and patient. She paid the driver and stood there for a moment, listening. The street was quiet in a way that felt staged. No dogs, no traffic, no late-night arguments drifting from open windows. She reached for the bell. The door opened before she touched it. A man stood there holding a clipboard. Neat hair, neutral face, eyes that looked tired without being sloppy about it. "You're early," he said. "I didn't want to be late," she replied. He nodded, like that was the correct answer to a test she didn't remember signing up for. "Phone," he said, holding out his hand. She raised an eyebrow. "All ready." "No exceptions." She handed it over. The house swallowed the signal immediately. Inside, the air was warmer, not cozy, controlled. Everything smelled faintly of polish and something clinical beneath it. "Rules are simple," he said as they walked. "You stay where you're placed. You don't wander. You don't interfere." Interfere with what? With survival. She stopped walking. He didn't. She followed, because whatever survival meant here, it apparently didn't include standing alone in the hallway. They climbed the stairs. Each step sounded louder than it should have. The air grew heavier near the top, like the house compressed itself at night. At the end of the hall, he stopped and opened a door. The room was dim. One lamp, heavy curtains, a bed against the far wall. A man lay on it, awake, not restrained, not dramatic, just still in a way that made the room feel smaller. She felt it immediately. The presence, not threatening, not seductive, alert. "There's a chair," the clipboard man said quietly. "Sit there." The chair was closer to the bed than she expected, close enough to feel warmth without touching, close enough to feel included in something she hadn't agreed to understand yet. "What exactly do I do?" she asked. "You stay," he said. "If he speaks, you answer. If he asks if you're here, you answer immediately. And if I don't?" The man paused. "Then the knight notices?" She laughed despite herself. "The knight sounds dramatic." "It is," he said without humor. He placed a small digital timer on the table beside her chair. 8 hours glowed back at her. "When this ends," he said, "you're done. And if I leave before that?" He looked at her then. Really looked. "Please don't." The door closed softly behind him. She sat. The man on the bed didn't move, didn't look at her directly. His eyes were open, fixed somewhere above her shoulder, like he was listening to something she couldn't hear yet. The silence stretched. She became aware of her breathing, of the way the chair pressed into her legs, of how loud the room felt without sound. Finally, he spoke. "You came," he said. "Yes." A pause. "Most don't." "That's reassuring," she said dryly. A faint sound left him, not a laugh, something close. "You joke when you're nervous," he said. "I joke when I'm awake," she replied. This seemed relevant. Another pause. "You can joke," he said. "Just don't disappear." She swallowed. Define disappear. He turned his head slightly, not fully facing her, but enough that she felt the shift like a change in pressure. "Leaving counts," he said. "So does checking. Out." "That feels personal?" "It is," he replied. The timer ticked softly. She adjusted in the chair, suddenly aware that staying still might actually be harder than leaving. "Are you still here?" he asked. "Yes," she answered immediately. "Say it slower." She hesitated, then did. "Yes." His breathing changed, deeper, heavier, like something inside him unclenched. The reaction unsettled her more than fear would have. The silence returned, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was listening. And as the night settled around them, she understood the first truth of the deal. She wasn't hired to work. She was hired to be noticed. And the night was already paying attention. The silence did not relax after her answer. It was adjusted, like something had taken note of her compliance and decided to continue the experiment. She stayed seated, hands resting where she'd placed them, palms open, visible. The chair felt harder now, less forgiving. The warmth from the bed crept toward her legs, not touching, just close enough to be acknowledged. The man on the bed breathed slowly. Not asleep, never asleep. She understood that now. "Don't fill the quiet," he said. "It breaks things." "I didn't say anything," she replied. "Exactly." That felt like a warning disguised as approval. The timer ticked, steady and bright, counting down seconds that felt heavier than normal time. She resisted the urge to stare at it. Watching time pass felt like a kind of betrayal here, like admitting she wanted it to end. Minutes slipped by, then more. The room felt smaller, not physically, psychologically, like the walls had leaned in to listen. "Tell me where you are," he said. She blinked. "In a chair." "Closer." She inhaled slowly. "On the left side of the bed, close enough to feel heat, far enough not to touch." He exhaled, a sound that landed somewhere between relief and restraint. "Good," he said. "Stay aware." The words settled into her chest. Awareness, she realized, was the actual job. Not staying awake, not sitting still, being present without interfering. Her body responded before her mind did. Her posture shifted slightly, grounding, feet flat, spine straight, breath controlled. She felt him notice. "You're learning fast," he said. "That's not comforting," she replied. "No," he agreed. "It's useful." The dark humor crept in then, quiet and unwelcome. She wondered how many people had sat in this chair before her. How many had joked too loudly, asked the wrong question, shifted at the wrong moment. How many had left before sunrise? The thought made her grip the edge of the chair just slightly tighter. "Relax your hands," he said. She released them immediately. "Sorry. Don't apologize," he said. "Just respond." Another rule revealed itself. They sat like that for a while, him lying still, her seated alert, calibrated to the smallest changes in the room. Every sound felt amplified, the hum of electricity, the faint movement of fabric when he breathed, the soft tick of the timer slicing the night into manageable pieces. "Why do you think you were chosen?" he asked. The question landed without warning. She considered lying, then decided against it. "Because I didn't sound curious enough to be dangerous," she said. A pause, then quietly and correct. That answer unsettled her more than silence. "You don't need someone to talk," she said. "You need someone who won't." "Yes," he replied. "Talking invites the night to participate." "That feels unfair," she said. "The night doesn't care about fairness." She almost laughed. Almost. Instead, she shifted her weight slightly, announcing it the way she'd learned. "I'm adjusting." "Okay," he said. She adjusted. The approval felt disproportionate to the action, which told her everything about the stakes. The air grew warmer, or maybe she was just more aware of her skin now. The dress clung slightly at her back. Her pulse felt louder in her ears. "You're thinking loudly again," he said. "I didn't say anything." "I know." She exhaled slowly. Let the thoughts drain. Focused on the physical. Chair, floor, breath. "I'm here," she said. His breathing deepened. The effect startled her. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was immediate. Like a switch flipped somewhere inside him. That was the first time the erotic tension registered fully. Not sexual, not romantic, powerful. Her voice, her presence, her staying had weight here. And weight could be dangerous. The night pressed closer, as if irritated by the realization. "You feel it now?" he said. "Yes." "That's the middle," he said. "Most people fail here." "Fail how?" "They try to help." She frowned. "Helping is bad. Helping is noisy," he said. "Noise attracts attention." The logic was twisted, but internally consistent. Dark humor crept in again, sharp and dry. "So I'm basically emotional soundproofing," she said. A pause. "Yes," he said. "Very expensive soundproofing." She let out a soft breath that almost counted as a laugh. The tension bent, not breaking, just enough to let air through. "You can smile," he added. "The night hates joy." "That's reassuring." "It should be." Time passed in uneven waves, sometimes thick and slow, sometimes slipping by unnoticed. Her body adapted. The chair stopped feeling hostile. The silence stopped feeling predatory. Then the pressure returned, not stronger, closer. Her thoughts grew restless, circling the urge to speak, to test boundaries, to prove she still had agency. The desire to say his name, even though she didn't know it, flickered unhelpfully in her mind. She stayed quiet. He noticed anyway. "You're resisting," he said. "Yes." "Good," he replied. "That means you're still yourself." The line landed deeper than expected. She realized then that staying wasn't just about him. It was about her too. About not dissolving into the role, not becoming furniture in someone else's survival. "I don't want to disappear either," she said softly. The silence sharpened, then softened. "That," he said, "is why you're still here." The timer glowed on, indifferent. Hours remained. Enough time for the night to try again. Enough time for something to change. She felt the balance settle, fragile but intact. two people existing in the same room without reaching, without fixing, without fleeing. The dark humor of it all lingered like an inside joke no one else would ever hear. One night, one deal, and both of them are learning, slowly, carefully, how not to vanish before morning. The night did not stay still. It never did. It shifted in small, careful ways, like it was testing them. The air felt thicker now, heavier against her skin. The silence no longer simply waited. It pressed. Not enough to hurt, just enough to remind her it was still in control. She stayed seated. Her body had learned the chair, the exact angle that didn't creak, the way her feet rested flat against the floor, the rhythm of her breath that didn't draw attention unless she wanted it to. The man on the bed had stopped staring at the ceiling. His eyes were closed now, but she knew better than to think he was asleep. His awareness filled the room more strongly than before, like closing his eyes had sharpened everything else. "You're still steady," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied. Not slower, not faster, exactly as before. His breathing eased. That response had become familiar now. Too familiar. She noticed how quickly her body reacted to it, how her chest loosened the moment she heard his breath change. That unsettled her. Not because it felt wrong, but because it felt practiced. Like she had been doing this much longer than a few hours. The dark humor surfaced again, unwelcome but sharp. She was getting good at this, and good things, she knew, were rarely safe in rooms like this. The timer glowed on the table, its numbers smaller now, less intimidating. She didn't look at it for long. Time here felt different, measured not in minutes, but in moments survived without breaking focus. "You're thinking again," he said. "Yes," she admitted. "About leaving," he said. "No," she replied. "About staying too well." A pause. Then softly, "That's dangerous too." She nodded, even though he couldn't see it. The night pressed closer, encouraged by the confession. Her thoughts grew louder, more insistent. She felt the pull to speak, to joke, to disrupt the balance just to prove she could. She resisted. Silence was not emptiness here. It was structure. "You can move," he said after a while. "Just tell me." "I'm shifting," she said. "Okay." She adjusted her posture slightly, careful and deliberate. The chair creaked once, softly. Her muscles tensed. He exhaled slowly. "Good," he said. "You announced it." The approval sent a quiet warmth through her chest. Not pride, something closer to relief. That bothered her more than fear ever had. The space between them felt closer now. Not because she had moved nearer, but because awareness had narrowed. She could sense the heat of him through the air, steady and contained. It was intimate without being indulgent. She stayed where she was. "Tell me something true," he said suddenly. She hesitated. Truth felt louder than silence. "I don't know what you want from me," she said. Another pause, longer this time. "Good," he replied. "If you thought you did, you'd already be gone." The honesty landed hard. She swallowed and focused on her breathing. Outside the room, the house creaked faintly, settling into itself. The sound reminded her that this place existed beyond the night, beyond this moment. That morning was real, even if it felt distant. The man shifted beneath the sheet, turning slightly onto his side. Not toward her fully, just enough to change the dynamic. The pressure sharpened instantly. She felt it in her stomach, in the quiet alertness of her body. This was the edge he had warned her about, the place where attention became too focused, too intense. She stayed still. "That's close enough," he said. Her pulse slowed deliberately. "Understood," she replied. The restraint between them felt deliberate now, mutual. Not a rule imposed from outside, but something they were actively maintaining together. The night didn't like that. It pressed harder. Her thoughts tried again, louder this time. Questions rose uninvited. Who he was, how long he had been doing this. What happened on nights when no one came? She didn't ask. Instead, she grounded herself again. Chair, floor, breath. "I'm here," she said. The words felt heavier now, more intentional. His shoulders eased. The response was immediate, instinctive, and that was the moment she truly understood the danger of this job. Her presence mattered too much. That kind of importance could pull someone under if they weren't careful. The dark humor flickered again. She was a temporary solution being treated like a structural beam. "You don't have to carry it all," she said softly, before she could stop herself. The silence snapped tight. She froze. For a moment she thought she'd crossed the line. Then he spoke. "That's the first thing you've said tonight that wasn't part of the rules," he said. "I'm sorry," she replied. "Don't be," he said. "Just don't repeat it." Relief washed through her, slow and controlled. The night receded a fraction, as if disappointed. They sat like that for a long time, the tension neither growing nor fading, just holding steady. The room felt balanced on something invisible but strong. She noticed the ache in her back, the fatigue creeping into her legs. Physical reminders that this was real, that her body was still part of the equation. "You can lean back," he said. "You're allowed to be human." "I thought that was optional here," she replied. A quiet sound escaped him. Not quite laughter. Close enough to count. "Only during the middle," he said. "The beginning and the end are less forgiving." She absorbed that. This was the middle of the night, the most dangerous part. The part where nothing dramatic happened, where endurance mattered more than action, where leaving felt tempting simply because staying required attention. She stayed. The timer ticked on, patient and indifferent. The night tried one last time to pull, her focus away, sending a wave of restlessness through her body, a sudden urge to move, to speak, to test. She resisted. "I'm still here," she said, steady and calm. His breathing slowed. The room eased. They had crossed something together without naming it. Not intimacy, not trust, stability. And as the night settled back into a wary truce, she understood the truth hidden inside the deal. The night wasn't trying to destroy him. It was trying to see who would stay. And this time, it wasn't winning. The night changed its strategy. It stopped pressing. That was worse. The silence softened, becoming almost comfortable, like a chair that fit too well. The air loosened around her shoulders. Her muscles, tired from holding themselves so precisely, begged for rest. She did not give it to them. This was the dangerous part. Not the pressure, not the fear. Ease. The man sensed it immediately. "Don't relax yet," he said quietly. She smiled without humor. "You read minds now." "No," he replied. "I read patterns, and the night loves it when people think they're safe." The words settled deep. She straightened slightly, grounding herself again. Chair, floor, breath. The ritual had become second nature now, almost intimate in its repetition. The lamp hummed on, faithful but strained. Shadows clung to the corners of the room, thinner now, like they were waiting for permission to leave. She noticed then that he hadn't asked if she was still there in a long while. That was new. The realization slid into her slowly, unsettling in a different way. At some point, without announcement, he had stopped checking. He assumed. The power shift was subtle, but unmistakable. She had become constant. "That's a problem," she said softly. "Yes," he replied. "And also the point." The dark humor crept in again, sharper now. "So this is the part where I become furniture," she said. "No," he said. "Furniture doesn't choose." She absorbed that in silence. The night leaned closer, curious again. Her body felt warm, almost heavy, the kind of warmth that came from sustained focus rather than comfort. She was aware of every detail now, the soft sound of his breath, the faint rustle of fabric when he shifted, the way the room felt balanced on the edge of something unseen. He turned his head slightly, facing her more directly than before. Not fully, just enough to narrow the space between them. The erotic tension, sharpened, clean, and restrained, built entirely on proximity and awareness. No touch, no invitation, just attention. "That's far enough," he said. She stopped moving, though she hadn't realized she'd leaned forward. "Sorry," she said. "Don't apologize," he replied. "Just notice." She noticed. Her pulse had quickened, not from fear, from being seen this closely without being looked at. The night didn't like that. It pushed again, not with pressure, but with temptation. The urge to speak too much, to joke, to test how much she could say without breaking something fragile. She stayed quiet. "You're resisting again," he said. "Yes." "Good," he replied. "That means you're still you." The line echoed something he'd said earlier, and this time it landed differently. He wasn't just monitoring the night anymore. He was monitoring her. That awareness could have felt invasive. Instead, it felt shared. The shift deepened. "I won't ask you to stay forever," he said suddenly. She blinked. "That's generous." "I mean it," he said. "The night tries to make people permanent. That's how it wins." She nodded slowly. "So what happens now?" she asked, careful, precise. "We finish," he said. "Together, without confusing survival for attachment." The honesty startled her. The tension in the room recalibrated, losing some of its sharpness, gaining weight instead. This wasn't seduction. It was something more dangerous. Mutual awareness. The timer glowed on the table. Less time now. The numbers felt closer together, like they were hurrying. She felt fatigue creep into her bones, heavy but manageable. Her body wanted rest. Her mind wanted clarity. She stayed. The night tried once more, sending a wave of restlessness through her, a sudden urge to stand, to pace, to do something with the energy trapped in her muscles. She resisted. "I'm still here," she said. He exhaled deeply. The sound carried relief, but also acceptance. "That's enough," he said, not commanding, concluding. The pressure eased noticeably. The room felt lighter, like something unseen had stepped back to reassess. She realized then that they had crossed the hardest part. Not the beginning, not the middle, the shift, the moment where roles blurred and had to be carefully separated again before they fused into something unhealthy. The dark humor returned, softer now. "So," she said quietly, "do I get a badge for this?" He smiled. She could hear it. "No," he said, "you get your life back." The lamp flickered, then steadied brighter. The shadows retreated another inch. Outside something changed. Not light yet, just absence of deep dark. Morning was circling. She felt a strange mix of emotions rise in her chest. Relief, pride, a quiet sadness she hadn't expected. This was ending. And endings, she realized, were always louder than beginnings if you listened closely. She stayed still, present, deliberate, all the way through the thinning dark. The night had done its worst, and it had not taken either of them with it. Morning arrived without drama. No sudden light, no sharp line between dark and day. Just a slow thinning of the night, like something exhaling after holding itself together for too long. She felt it before she saw it. The pressure in the room eased. The silence lost its edge. It stopped watching them and became what silence was supposed to be: empty, harmless, ordinary. She stayed seated, but her body relaxed for the first time all night. Not collapsing, just settling. The chair felt like a chair again instead of a test. The man noticed immediately. "You can rest now," he said. The words sounded different from everything else he had said tonight. Softer. Final. She nodded, then spoke, grounding the moment the way she'd learned. "I'm still here." He smiled, not faintly, not carefully. A real smile. "I know," he said. "That's why it worked." The timer on the table chimed once and went dark. 0. No applause, no warning, just an end. The house reacted before either of them did. The lamp brightened slightly, no longer straining. Somewhere below, a pipe clicked as if the building itself was waking up. He sat up slowly, like someone testing a body they hadn't trusted in a while. Rolled his shoulders, breathed in deeply, then out. Nothing broke. "That's new," he said, sounding almost amused. "What is?" "I don't feel like I'm racing the sun," he replied. "I usually lose that." She smiled, tired but satisfied. "Congratulations, you outlasted the night." He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood, steady, grounded, very much alive. For the first time, she saw him fully in the growing light. Not dangerous, not fragile, just a man who had survived something repeatedly and finally learned how not to fight it alone. He walked to the window and pulled the curtain back. Morning spilled in, soft, pale, real. He closed his eyes as the light touched his face, like he was letting something settle into place. "I forgot it looked like this," he said quietly. She stood, stretching slowly, her legs stiff but reliable. Her body hummed with exhaustion and something else. Pride, maybe, or closure. The door opened behind them. The man with the clipboard stepped in, already scanning the room, checking for signs of damage that didn't exist. He stopped when he saw the window open. Then he nodded. "Good," he said. "Very good." He placed an envelope on the table, thicker than she expected. He also placed her phone beside it. The transaction felt strangely anticlimactic now, like being paid for surviving an earthquake by sitting still. She picked up the envelope, weighed it in her hand, then set it down again. "So," she said lightly, "do I get a performance review?" The clipboard man hesitated. The man by the window laughed. Actually laughed. "That's dark," he said. "I like you." She grinned. Occupational hazard. The tension that had ruled the night dissolved into something awkward and human. The kind of energy that only exists after something intense ends without disaster. She walked toward the door, then stopped. "This doesn't work if I come back," she said, not asking. He nodded. "No, it works because you don't." "Good," she said. "I'm terrible at forever." He met her eyes. "You were perfect for one night." That landed gently, exactly where it should have. She picked up the envelope and her phone and headed for the stairs. The house felt different now. Just a house. Old. Quiet. Finished with whatever ritual it had been performing. Outside, the morning air felt shockingly normal. Cars passed. A dog barked. Someone laughed too loudly down the street. Life continued without ceremony. She stood there for a moment, letting the sun warm her face, letting the night finally release its grip on her nervous system. Behind her, upstairs, a man stood by an open window, breathing easily, no longer negotiating with darkness. Two lives changed forever, not because they touched, not because they fixed each other, not because the night was defeated, but because, for once, it was endured correctly. One night, one deal, and both of them walked away with exactly what they needed.